Tony
they
has a hard problem.
required
He doesn't like,
survey
he likes to get up at 4 and be back in at 10.
I want to be back at 9:30.
That's
today.
not
Yeah.
that's not a problem. That's a tradition. I do
But
the
I
same
said,
thing.
Tony,
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to call the June 24th, 2025 Virginia Marine Resources Commission meeting back in order. We're reconvening. So now that we've had filled our bellies and got some caffeine, we can pick up where we left off. And we're on the oyster ground lease. Mr. Johnson, item number 12 in your packet. Matters before the commission. Mr. Erskine.
Can I guess we're starting with no motions on the table, is that
The
correct?
last one failed, and I didn't take another one. I went ahead and ran to lunch to get some sanity for a few minutes, and then now we're here.
So I'll try this again with another motion, and everybody may be equally as disappointed as the previous one. So I'd make a motion to table this agenda item until the July meeting, requesting that the two parties get together and trying to find out a compromise that works for both of them.
So I have a motion to table,
Second.
and I mean, she's got a hair trigger on them seconds over there. So
Ready.
I got a motion to table this for the July meeting. Do we even have enough time to advertise it for the July meeting? Yes. Okay, all right. So the motion to table it for the July 2025 meeting, so the parties can get together and come up with an agreement from Commissioner Erskine, and I have a second from Commissioner Kellum. Any further discussion? Mr. White?
Do you think 30 days is enough for them to do what they got to do? Are there any petitions that have to go? Does it have to go to public comment? Does anything have to be done other than them have a meeting of the minds so that we just kicking this thing down the road?
I think Chief Kenyon said it best. If we change the size of it, then, yeah, that probably won't be enough time.
It will not.
Probably won't.
And then they'd have to bring back another motion.
Yeah, because he's gonna have to re-advertise it in its new footprint.
There'll be, yes, between now and the July commission meeting, we could probably meet and start talking about it. There'll be no way to be able to complete the survey and allow that survey to sit for 30 days to allow for public comment for me to bring it back for the July commission meeting. But yes, we can work at a compromise on that. Again, the fees for that survey, if so, would be borne from the applicant, and it would come back in front of this commission for public comment and decision based on those public comments.
So short answer to you is you're absolutely right. Ms. Edwards?
can I make a comment, please? I'm thinking about, we've gone back and forth here, and I'm thinking about the gentleman that's trying to make a living economically. I'm thinking about when I saw the Corps of Engineers. I appreciate what you all do. I've been thrown with the Corps for 50-some years in a workforce. It was proposed. It can vary depending on the year, the storms that come through. Thinking about the shells, don't we put shells overboard to refurnish the atmosphere in the water to do, we're talking about 15 feet, 11 feet at low tide, and if anybody's that tall, bless them, they can be out there. I just want it said that I am sorry we're not moving forward with accepting what he's doing. And I think pushing it down the line, I think we all know the more we push it down the line, it will be denied because of going this and he not moving through. So I just wanted my statement for the record.
Thank you. So I have a motion to table to July. It's been properly seconded. I think, I'll see where this one's going. All those in favor of putting this on the July agenda, raise your hand. Associate Member Kellum, Associate Member Erskine, Associate Member Headley. All those opposed to putting this off to the July agenda, please raise your hand. Mr. Preston and Commissioner Preston and Commissioner Member Edwards. Abstaining, all those abstaining? I got one abstention. Got two abstentions. So motion carries, abstentions are Mr. Hand, right? And Mr. White. Hang on, so that motion carries 3-2-2. 3-2-2. Yeah, that's a good vote. Got it. Motion carries tabled.
Can I have clarification on that motion? Is that to bring it back to the
July.
July or as soon as possible?
I didn't hear that. That wasn't in the motion. It's July.
Is the survey will not be done and publicly
Right.
commented on by the July commission meeting?
Motion was made and passed. July commission.
Can I
can't-
ask a question? Will we know by the July meeting if he's pushed the survey, paid for and started the survey process?
I don't know.
Fair answer.
Sir, oh, go ahead.
July might just end up being an update. Sounds like.
It could be, July, being on the agenda doesn't mean that we necessarily have to vote on it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's on the agenda today and we didn't vote on it. I mean, so, so it just means it's gonna be back on the agenda for us to discuss. And we can see where it is and then establish where we go from there, whether we need more time or whatever. Is that fair enough?
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think it gives the parties an opportunity to discuss whatever that means for the two parties. And we're gonna get that update, and it's gonna be on the agenda, so that means it's going to have to be heard. And we may have to remove it from the agenda, I guess, if it's not gonna be voted on. But at least it's going to put the two parties with a deadline to discuss it.
Thank you all. That was fun. Why couldn't y'all do that like 2 hours ago? All right, now that being said, Chief Gear.
Glad you all have something in your belly now.
I was gonna say consensus, yeah, I was gonna say consensus by exhaustion, but we didn't even get a consensus, so.
Last thing people want to be doing is listening to a Yankee with no food in their stomach in this heat.
It's a good topic. We got blue crabs. It's amazing.
It's blue crabs.
Yeah, everybody loves blue crab.
I'm here today to talk about, before I start, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the two staff that worked on this presentation and the presentation this morning. Alex Galvin is our crab person here, and she's also on our CBSAC, and she's worked very diligently on this. We've been very blessed that we have a Commonwealth of Virginia Engineering and Science Fellow this year that we got. Her name is Daniel Rico, and when she came on board, she was going to be working on mandatory reporting, and she said, well, my master's degree is going to be in terrapins. I mean, perfect. So between the two of them, they did a great job putting together the presentations, and we'll have Danielle for at least another month and a half, and now we've got even more work for her to work on since what you did this morning. So today is a public hearing on proposal to amend Chapter 4 VAC 20-270-10 pertaining to blue crab fishery to establish management measures to include season and bushel limits for the 2025-26 commercial blue crab fisheries, and to close the 2025-2026 winter commercial dredge fishing season. Okay, here's my outline. We're going to go over the winter dredge survey abundance results and the reference points first. And you've seen this slide many times before. The dredge survey has been going on since the winter of 2019-90. It's done by VIMS and Maryland DNR. They sample 1,500 random sites annually from December to March, and the map off to the right shows each one of those dots is a site that they sampled in 2023. So that gives you an idea how much, where they fish, where they sample, and how, and the intensity of what they do. And the objectives of that are to come up with abundances for blue crabs for life stages, estimate fishing mortality, and evaluate the stock status annually. We have the timeline that we have for this. CBSAC received the information from the dredge survey, and they had a meeting on May 15th to review the results. On May 22nd, Virginia and Maryland released their press releases, and the Virginia press releases in your packets. On the 29th, we presented the results to the Crab Management Advisory Committee, and we're here today to set the measures for the 2025-26 seasons. We have an upcoming stock assessment we've talked about in the past. It's moving along great. They're having meetings every 2 weeks at this point. It should be done. It should be peer-reviewed and expected to be available for management sometime in about early spring, probably February to March is the estimate right now. So we're making great progress on that as well. Just to talk about the 2025, just a summary of the abundance from the winter dredge survey. Most of the abundance estimates were down in 2024. Total crab abundance was down 25%, down to 238 million crabs. It ranked second last on the survey's history of 36 years. The adult-female abundance decreased 19% to 108 million crabs. That's still above our threshold, our low threshold of 72 million crabs, but below our abundance target of 196. So it's in that range. I'll show you a graph in a second. You'll see that. The adult male abundance decreased about 43%, down to 26 million crabs. And the juvenile abundance decreased about 25%, down to 103 million crabs. And this just shows the history of total abundance. The long-term averages is that reddish line, and that's at 401 million crabs. And last year, in this past season, 2024-25 season, it was at 238 million crabs. And this is showing abundance by sex for age 1 plus females and age plus males. In this past year, the females were at 108 million crabs, and the males were at 26 million crabs. And this is the famous graph that we show every time, and I'll explain it again because the more I drill it into everybody, the more likely they're going to remember it. These numbers come from our updated stock assessment. Our last benchmark stock assessment was in 2011, and that's what they're doing now, a new benchmark. But every year we do an update on the existing methodologies, and so we come up with these thresholds in the target each year, and we're able to determine the status of the stock. So the target is where we want to be. That's above that. The fishery is completely recovered and sustainable. The red line is the threshold. We don't want to go below that. If we're below that, the stock is overfished. So you can see for the most part, before that period, late 90s and early 2000s, we were almost at that depleted level. And in 2008, 2009, we put those measures in place, drastic measures, the 34% reduction we took overall to reduce harvest and to protect the females. And we had some instant recoveries from that. But you can see for the most part, we have been in between, but we have been seeing a general downward trend in the last few years in abundance of the females. Moving on to the Baywide data reference points. This is starting with the commercial harvest, and the red bars are Maryland, the yellowish lines are Potomac, and Virginia is in blue. Harvest was down overall about 7% last year. Virginia was down about 18%. Potomac River was down about 14%. Maryland was about stable. They were up about a little bit more than 1% for the year. Interestingly, what we're seeing is that Maryland's percentage of the total harvest that's females has been increasing in recent years. It used to be Virginia caught 65 to 70% of the females, but now it's between 50 and 60. So Maryland is that red line. Their percent of the female catch is increasing.
Is that because they're staying in Maryland waters more or not?
Don't know. Okay, but in the same regard, the male harvest is about stable, remaining, whereas it's about a 70-30 split, where Maryland catches about 70% of the females. Maryland catches about 70% of the males, and Virginia catches 30% of the males. This is the other statistic that comes from the stock assessment each year. It's the female exploitation rate, the percent of the population that's taken out due to fishing. And it's just the inverse of the other graph that I showed before, where the threshold is set at a value, and it's 37% that's derived statistically. If you go above that, you're overfishing. Overfishing is occurring. You're taking out too much of the stock is being removed by fishing. Our target is where we want to be. We want to be at or below that, and that's at 28%. And then for the last year, 2024, the exploitation rate was 22%. So our fishing mortality rate was acceptable. So last year, we weren't overfished, and overfishing is not occurring. And we manage on that adult female stock. That's what we're doing right now. The new stock assessment may say something different, but that's how we've been managing since at least 2011. The male exploitation rate is not derived from a stock assessment. It is a conservation trigger, and it's the second highest exploitation rate the survey has ever seen, which was 34%. And last year we were at 30%. So we're, again, that's just a conservation measure. But if you look at it, we're not overfishing with that as well. I'm going to not take questions at this point. Just go a little bit quicker. We'll take questions at the end, if that's okay. All right, everyone's nodding yes. Thank you. Moving on to commercial harvest and Virginia's commercial harvest. In 2024, like I said, it was about 17% decrease, about 15,415,000 pounds. Hard crabs make about 97% of that. Peelers are about 3%. Dockside value is about $34.5 million. That's a 17% decrease. The number of harvesters, the people who actually reported landings, which is, if you report 1 pound, you're a harvester, that's 740 crabbers with 43,452 trips, and there's about 10% decrease.
Is that 17% drop because of less crabs or less crabbers?
Well, the abundance was down.
Yeah.
And so we had less effort, though, too. So I'll show a graph in a second. Like I said earlier this morning, we're seeing a decline in a lot of our fisheries, in crab fishery as well, where less folks are crabbing. So because of retirees and so whatever, we're seeing the graying of the fleet. So it's a combination of things. Where am I going? I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm sorry. I don't know how I got back that far. There we go. I must have my finger on the button. Okay, this is showing the blue is the harvest and the effort, and they're pretty much declining at the same rate. Effort is an indication. When you take those two numbers together, if your harvest is decreasing but your effort is remaining the same, that means one thing. But if effort is decreasing at the same rate or faster than your harvest, then your catch per trip is not declining that much. So, but the effort is about. Like I said, the harvest is in Virginia was 15,400,000 pounds last year, and effort was about 43,452 trips. And this is a graph, I think we showed this morning too, where the blue line indicates for crab license who is eligible. And we had that dip in 2009 when we instituted all those management changes in 2009, where it dipped, but the number of people eligible remains the same. The red line shows licenses that are actually sold, and then the yellow line indicates folks that are actually active. So only about 57% of our eligible fishermen are actually fishing. So, like I said, a lot of that the decline we're seeing is people are aging out of the fishery and haven't transferred licenses. Staff recommendation for management. We're going to recommend status quo from last year, no change. So the season will remain the same and the bushel limits will be the same as last year. For hard crabs, the pot season will be March 17th through December 16th. That high bushel limit will be from May 16th through October 31st. Peel pot and all other gears, the seasons will be April 15th through October 15th. And we're recommending keeping the winter dredge fishery closed. Here's the bushel limits. They're the same as last year. So the high period is July 5th through October 31st, and again from May 16th to the 4th. And for each pot type, what those limits are. So you can see that. No change to that as well. And moving on to the winter dredge fishery, historically it was done between December and March 31st. There was a task, we talked about this in the past, there was a task force in 2000 that looked at crab dredging and what should be done with it. The crab dredging fishery was closed in 2008 as part of the 34% reduction we had to take to conserve female crabs. 17% of that reduction came from the winter dredge fishery, the crab dredge fishery. And each year, the commission has to vote whether or not to keep the season closed or not. That's something that we have to do. Last year, CMAQ recommended, after a long discussion, we had lots of discussions, several meetings, CMAQ recommended revisiting the dredge closure after the new stock assessment results come out in 2026, which is probably a good idea, because when you're doing a stock assessment, adding new components to the fishery might have some impacts on the results of that assessment. So CMAQ, we met on May 29th, and we talked about the measures, the 2025 through 2026 measures. They voted unanimously to recommend status quo with a season. They want to see a season extension until Saturday, December 20th. Staff said the 16th. We have no objections to going to the 20th if that's what the board would like to do. We also talked about the 2,000 license wait list. A lot of people who didn't have landings during a certain period of time were put on a wait list until the crab abundance reached that threshold for 3 consecutive years. So many people were still on that wait list. Now that wait list has trickled down over time because of retirements or people passing away, or the license was removed. So, but there was talk. A couple of folks came to our commission meeting and asked about that. We talked about it at CMAQ, and CMAQ said that's another thing we should wait until the stock assessment comes out, until we get the results on it. And we also talked about the dark sponge law. Waterman asked about the sponge law and altering that in enclosed sanctuaries. We are going to look into that. We had a meeting on that right before COVID, and then COVID hit, and we didn't really pick it back up, but we're going to discuss that. When we talk about the dark sponge, we're talking about the brown and black sponges on the crabs. When they're black, they're going to be releasing those eggs within 2 days. The black is actually the eye stalks of the larvae. So, but there's some issues. Some folks say certain times of the year, that's all you're catching. And so we'll continue those discussions. We had one comment in favor of the status quo. And I'm just going to go over the regulation real quick. If the commission will allow, I will just say the dates instead of reading all this into the record. Okay? In section 40, which is the seasons, wherever it says 2024, we're changing it to 2025. And wherever it says 2025, we're changing it to 2026 in both subsections A and C. Moving on to the section 51, which is the daily commercial harvest vessel and harvest possession limits. Again, in subsection B, anywhere it says 2024, we're changing it to 2025. And where it says 2025 to 2026. And these are the higher bushel limits. And then C is the lower bushel limits, which shows the dates. And this is changing this from 2024 to 2025, as I said, and 2025 to 2026. Okay, and for the crab dredge, again, all we're doing is we're changing the date. So I'll read this one because it's short. This is section 57, which is crab dredge fishery, in accordance with the provisions of section 28.2-707 of the Code of Virginia. The crab dredging season of December 1, 2025 through March 31, 2026 is closed, and it shall be unlawful to use the dredge for catching crabs from the waters of the Commonwealth during that season. So everything we did was just change the dates. It was a status quo. So as I said, our staff recommendation is the status quo, the same season of bushel limits as last year. The hard crab pot season, March 17th through December 16th. The high bushel limit period will be May 16th through October 31st. The peel pot and other gears will be April 15th through October 15th. And we're recommending keeping the winter dredge fishery closed. As I said, the CMAQ recommendation was to have the season closed December 20th. The staff doesn't have much objections about this. In the past, there hasn't been a lot of effort that late in the year. So it's if it helps a few folks out to close on, I think it's a Saturday, December 20th, to close on that date instead of midweek, we're okay with it. So I think that's all I have at this point. If there's any questions.
Any questions for Chief here? Mr. Hand?
Yeah, regarding the busted silk sponge crabs, is staff And I hear you kind of taking a hard look at that after the CMAC.
The sponge crab?
Yeah,
We're just starting to. We have to, it's sort of like we have to get the band back together. There were a few folks on CMAC that sat on it and staff, and some staff have moved on since then. So we're trying to get, and folks from VIM. So we're in the process of getting those folks back up together and having that, starting those discussions again.
yeah. To me, that's. I mean, understanding that the eggs have a very small chance of making it to maturity, but the numbers are still millions and millions and millions of eggs
Yeah.
for some, my opinion, poor quality crabs. And it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, it's to allow there to be some crabbing or a fishery during that time of the year is the reason why it hasn't been closed in the past.
Well, there are certain areas and certain times of the year that, really all you're going to get is sponge crabs. So having the protection on those late stages, especially black sponge, because they'll be laying those eggs within 2 days. So, having some protection for them is, in my opinion, probably a good thing. Some of the crabs is a concern that, because of the heat of the day, once these crabs are coming on board, they may not, survive as well, or if they're in the pot, they're getting picked apart by other crabs, it might be an issue as well. So these are some of the issues we just got to talk about in the group.
I'm considering making some type of motion regarding sponge crabs today, but if it's in the work and
Yeah.
you're taking a hard look at it and maybe to
Yeah.
come with a recommendation.
Yeah,
I'd be
it's not on
happy.
it's not on the agenda for today to do that.
Right.
So
It wasn't
and I-
advertised.
Yeah, and I'd rather go.
I'm happy
Yeah.
to hear that it's something
Yeah.
staff is taking a look at.
We're going to form the work group again, and then we'll do that and go through CMAC as well, and then come back here and decide what we're going to do. We'll have a recommendation.
Any more questions? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience
Nobody
that
left.
wants to speak? You just want to get up, man, add your 2 cents. You're the only one left.
There's nobody left.
Me.
I can't even talk them into to participate. You come to all the meetings, we can't even talk, you come to the podium. All right. I should call Dr. Lukenbach up just to have an added discussion. Matters before the commission.
I was gonna make a motion.
Matters before the commission.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation, but move the 16th of December till the 20th.
So taking CMAX.
Yes, sir. Take in CMAC's recommendation with staff's recommendation.
Did I hear a second from Mr. White? Yes. Okay. So I got approved staff recommendations, just moved the date to CMAX, and staff had no problem with to the 20th of December on a Saturday, which makes sense, the end of the season on a Saturday.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Properly made motion by Commissioner Headley, properly seconded by Commissioner White. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Where did she go to?
She walked right outside.
She had a phone call.
All right, so it's 6-0. Miss Edwards is not here. She stepped out, so it passed. Either way you look at it. That being said, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. The next commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025.